If you are a Trump supporter, then this video might come off as disrespectful, as that is the nature of politics. But in my opinion, you should
forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings.
And today, the facts aren't looking very good for MAGA. Tim Pool had a MAGA versus Democrats debate, and the first topic they talked about was the 2020 election and how that plays into Trump being a fascist.
We would point out things that we might describe as authoritarian or fascistic, even if you don't agree with a particular label. And that's what he's saying we want to talk about. So, for example, did he plot to overturn the 2020 election? Did he resist the peaceful transfer of power? Does he command a cult of personality? These are factual questions.
Does he threaten the media? This is not. I'm not going to make a whataboutism. I'm going to say, okay, let's start from that presumption that would make Trump a fascist. That would also make Obama or Biden or Kamala much the same.
Which we can discuss, which is false.
What you just described as Donald Trump would apply to them in
they assemble fraudulent slates of elections.
When have they ever resisted the peaceful transfer of power or plotted to overturn an election?
I believe this was the first election in 52 years the Democratic Party has not challenged the election.
So I looked up this statistic he's referencing and wasn't able to find it anywhere. So I think he just made it up. But let's see if maybe he'll give us an example of the Democrats doing this recently, within the last 52 years, like he claimed, every single election for the last 52 years.
The basis for what Donald Trump did and his lawyers in 2021 was built upon what happened in the election between Nixon and Kennedy.
Not only is the example that he brought up not recent, it was 60 years ago, which is outside of the 52-year range where he claims that the Democrats have been challenging elections. It's not even that relevant to the debate. Challenging an election isn't necessarily a bad thing, depending on how you challenge it. It's just funny that he shamelessly just makes up a statistic for no reason.
When Hawaii sent a non-certified slate, would you call that fake as well?
No, in that case, this was before the certification had happened. The state sent two slates.
Incorrect.
In these cases,
Incorrect.
There were certifications by each state and then verified by the governor, then sent to to Washington, and those were the ones Trump wanted to get counted.
Will it
did
come up
not
on the screen,
represent
by the way?
the lawful outcome of the elections in those states. Y'all agree with that?
Agree with you about what?
That's what Trump was trying to do, getting electors that weren't the ones lawfully certified by the states to get counted?
No.
Okay.
What do you
Cool. Then.
Wait, what was he doing?
So we'll pull this up. Hang on.
Okay.
Before they get any deeper, I'm going to explain how the electoral process works, because it's going to get confusing if you don't know what an elector is, what it means for them to be certified, what a fake elector is. So when you vote in the general election, you're not actually voting for the president. Instead, you're voting for your state's set of electors. So every state has a set of Republican electors and Democratic electors. And these are real people who are nominated and certified to be their state's electors. And those are the people who vote for the president. So let's say the Democratic candidate gets more votes in Maryland. The Democratic electors in Maryland are now going to sign a piece of paper saying that they vote for the Democratic candidate. The governor is going to sign that piece of paper, and then they send that off to Congress. Congress will then open up all the papers from all the states, from all the electors' signatures, going through them and counting, and whoever has the most electors voting for that candidate, that is the candidate who will win the presidency.
And I'm using Wikipedia, which I'm not a big fan of because it is oversimplified and often wrong. But it says that Hawaii official results showed Nixon winning by a small margin. Hawaii's 3 electoral votes were cast for Nixon. Acting Governor James Keelio has certified the Republican electors, and they cast Hawaii's 3 electors for Nixon. However, clear discrepancies existed, blah, blah, blah. The court challenge was still ongoing at the time of the electoral count's safe harbor deadline, but Democratic electors still convened on the constitutionally mandated date of December 19th and cast their votes for Kennedy. Would you consider those to be illegitimate votes because it had already been certified for the Republican?
And then
Can we keep reading?
Continue.
The recount completed before Christmas resulted in Kennedy being declared the winner by 115 votes. On December 30th, the circuit court ruled that Hawaii's 3 electoral votes should go to Kennedy. It was decided that a new certificate was necessary with only 2 days remaining before Congress convened to count and certify the Electoral College votes. A letter to Congress saying a certificate was on the way was rushed out by registered airmail. Both Democratic and Republican electoral votes from Hawaii were presented for counting on January 6th, and Vice President Nixon, who presided over the certification, graciously said, without the intent of establishing a precedent, and requested unanimous consent, the Democratic votes for Kennedy be counted.
Right.
So basically, the race in Hawaii was super close. The Republican candidate won by only 115 votes. And during the time when they needed to send in the Republican electors needed to send in their certified vote, there was a recount going on. And so the Democrats thought, like, maybe this thing is going to switch. So what they did is they sent in a provisional slate, which is transparently a just in case thing. Like, hey, this is not certified by the governor. Like, this is just if the vote flips when they do the recount, then the governor can certify our vote. And so that's exactly what happened. When they did finish the recount, the Democratic candidate, Kennedy, actually ended up being who won. And so then the governor certified the Democratic slate as the official slate for Hawaii. However, in the 2020 election, Trump tried getting 7 of the swing states that Biden had won to send in an alternate slate of electors for the Republicans. The problem was that none of the governors wanted to do this. They all finished the recounts already. They all felt like it was pretty clear that Biden had won their state. So Trump obviously didn't like this, and so him and his team ended up doing it themselves. They created a fake elector slate signed by people who were falsely claiming to be the real electors, and then they sent that to Congress, not as a provisional slate, but acting as though it is the official slate of that state. Not only did none of the governors for any of those 7 states certify any of those electors slates, but they all actively said that they do not want to send in an alternate slate. So obviously totally different situations, but here's Tim Pool trying to argue that they're the same.
The Democrats had no right, by your logic, to fill out this paperwork and submit it to the federal government as the certified slate of electors. Only after the fact did the court make a decision. Now let's go to 2020. If there is pending court decisions, and there were, Republicans doing the same thing Democrats did.
No, you're wrong. The circuit court decided that a new certificate was necessary.
After the fact.
Before Congress convened.
Yes, but after
talking about,
they had already submitted the documents. This is why I'm asking you, when you said they were false documents, I didn't say anything else. What makes them false? It's the same as Hawaii. If you want to make the argument that Democrats did the same thing in 1960, I will agree with you.
The thing that makes the elector slate fake is the fact that it wasn't signed by the actual electors. In Hawaii, the elector slate was signed by the actual electors, and in the 2020 election, all 7 of those states not only were signed by people who were not the electors, the paper was created by the president and its team. The president, Kennedy, wasn't creating no slate in 1960.
But we're not making that argument because that's not what they did.
This is the point. In 1960, while there was still a recount going on and ongoing court cases, and it was so narrow they really didn't know which way it was going to go. Then they didn't even submit those or try to get them counted. The sitting president at the time until it was determined. Trump's case, he got all 7 states after this whole process had been concluded. It wasn't close enough for the recount to flip it. The recounts had concluded, and he was trying to get not let's have 2 standing by because we don't know how this recount's going to go, but from 7 states that we know the outcome of, but I'm making false claims of fraud on them, I'm going to get Pence to keep me as president by accepting fake electors. Tim, for a second, because we're supposed to be debating them, I think, could they also try to defend this stance?
Yeah, because you're comparing apples and oranges thing as far as I'm concerned. That was
silly.
Yeah, like if a court decided in one of the 5 or 7 states that Trump tried to peddle the false elector scheme, that if a court contested the Democratic slate of electors, then I think you would have an apples to apples comparison. But that's not what happened.
Yeah.
In none of the 7 states,
and it wasn't close enough to where they didn't know which way it was going to go.
Right, there was no actual ambiguity.
Yeah. Andrew, anything? Myron?
Well, what's the argument here? Is it fascism, or because you guys went into a whole other tangent? Because you guys went. I don't know if you guys. It started with fascism, but then we went into Kennedy election in 1960s.
I'll explain. One of the key tenets of, again, I know you'll get really triggered, so I'm trying to stay away from that particular term, but we can say fascism, authoritarianism,
is based. I don't know what
anti-democracy.
It's pretty fucking based. I don't know what the issue is, baby.
Is that legitimate or a joke? Because we can go into that. That'd be interesting.
I mean, we can go ahead.
Now suddenly you want to talk about fascism.
One of the key tenets is rejecting democratic principles and the democratic process.
According to who?
According to every single fascism scholar ever and the definition.
Now they're going to go completely off topic and talk about fascism, which I don't really care about, but they just never go back on topic. They stop talking about the elector situation, which is unfortunate because I haven't really seen any conservative really address this whole thing that happened in the 2020 election. This was pretty bad. Trump was trying to overturn the election by sending in fake votes. That's pretty bad. Anyways, that's all I got for the video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.